All right, folks, how we doing? So, first off, thank you all for making it out here. I know this is fall break. This is the first start of our first fall break, so that's pretty exciting. My name is Austin Hanson. I'm the chairman of GW College Republicans, and it's so great to see you all here. It really means a lot to us. This is the second of our 3-part speaker series, and I think you're really going to love our today's events. So just real quick, I have a housekeeping note that I've been asked to pass along. Please note that disruptions to the event will not be tolerated, and attempts to interrupt the speaker's remarks will result in removal from the venue. So thank you so much for your understanding with that. We want this to be a great experience for everyone, so please be respectful for that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the person that will be introducing our speakers, our very own Christian Miller. He's our Director of Political Affairs, and here you go.
All righty. Hey everybody, how's it going? Who's excited to be here? All right, that's what I like to hear. So we have a really special show for y'all tonight. We got a 2-for-1. I'm very excited because not only do we have the lovely and talented Mr. MILO Yiannopoulos here, we have his straight alter ego, Breitbart editor, and Chief Alex Marlow. So without further ado, please welcome them to George Washington University.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I brought a friend with me. This is Alex Marlow, who's the editor-in-chief of Breitbart, and is my boss, which is an exciting proposition. It's an exciting prospect for all of you because you get in the Q&A to ask what a monster I am to work with.
I'm the one who gets to make sure Milo has enough wardrobe budget so that he can wear whatever he needs to wear to look the way he looks.
And I don't. I have to pay for my own hair and makeup. Can you believe that? No, it's true. It's true. All right.
First fact check of the night.
What?
Mostly false.
It's not.
Mostly false.
No, it's not false. We're going to talk to you. I thought since we were in DC, I would get Alex in since he lives here, runs Breitbart's general news operation, but obviously is also the politics supremo, so we can have a little chat about the only thing anybody's really talking about, which is the election. So we're going to do a hard politics chat with you today. We only have the room for an hour because any more than that of me on campus is too dangerous for GW to countenance. They cannot cope with the idea of having me on campus for any more than an hour. I'm sorry to tell you, so we're not going to be able to get through very much other than having an interesting conversation between ourselves. Well, debate, third debate. I found it low energy. Did you find it low energy?
It was definitely of the three. It was the Heb-Bush debate. Heb's a soft J, so it's a. I'm from Los Angeles, so I think of my J's as soft typically. Yes, it was a little low energy.
You put those little upside down exclamation marks on the front page sometimes.
Oh, whenever possible.
Just to dare somebody to call you racist.
Yeah. Oh no, it's full trolling. People have just figured out this year that Breitbart trolls on the front page, which they just thought we were stupid. They didn't realize we were actually smarter than they are,
I learned this very quickly when you started putting any headline about or by me in pink.
Yeah, it's magenta. I have the magenta HTML search code bookmarked, so on any given day I go for at least 3 to 4 magenta MILO headlines.
All right, let's talk through the obvious things.
Yeah.
Most surprising thing about the debate for you?
The most surprising thing about the debate for me was certainly that the media did a fair job. The moderator, Chris Wallace, did a nice job from Fox News, which has been hostile to Trump, and he asked both candidates hard questions. We actually got into substance. God forbid we actually talked about immigration. Imagine that, 3 debates and 20 minutes in, we finally discussed the key issue of Trump's campaign, the issue that made him the rock star of the conservative movement that he is. It took 3.5 debates to get there, but thanks to Chris Wallace, we did.
Is that his fault? Because he's not... I mean, the problem with the God Emperor Daddy is that he doesn't... He is. I mean, my goodness. I promise and pledge to my supporters and to America, I will abide by the results of this election.
Yes.
If I win. What a boss. What a boss. What a boss.
That was either his best or second best troll of the campaign.
I don't know if he was ever going to match, because I don't think it's possible in this life, on this plane, this mortal coil, to match only Rosie O'Donnell. I don't think anybody will ever do anything better than that. I think that was a surprise for sure, and it was nice that we finally got into talking about immigration. But do you think that's partly Trump's fault? Because for all of his wonderful qualities, and you like to say that, you know, of all of the candidates that have run for president, he might be the only one who's really sort of a cultural icon. Is that right? That's
100% true. Yeah.
Right. I think so too. But he sometimes, God love him, doesn't do a brilliant job of expressing himself. Doesn't do a brilliant job of getting. You know, the attacks are sometimes not perfect. You know, in the end, I mean, he had some really killer stuff thanks to James O'Keefe on Hillary. And what does he say? He says the clips, and it's like just sort of assuming that we're all going to know what he's talking about. No, is it partly his fault that it's taken 3 debates to get to actually talk about immigration?
True. I didn't think we'd be ripping on Trump 3.5 minutes into the program.
No,
but
we're
yes,
not.
Yes.
No,
We're
not. It's just, you know, it's like, you know, sometimes mom doesn't do something right, or dad doesn't do something right. You know, it's like loving critique from within the family. You know, it's like mom and dad aren't perfect, and sometimes it's okay to talk about it. They don't mind.
No, you're on the money. And contrary to popular opinion about Breitbart.com, we will say negative things about Trump when he deserves it. And I've been pretty vocal that he hasn't done a good job of getting onto his talking points. And even when we were on immigration, he ended up responding to a Putin question that Hillary posed. It wasn't great. Sometimes he misses key things that. How many of you have heard of the book Clinton Cash in the audience? That's good. I like that. So one of the things in the book, one of the key moments, and this was actually broken ahead of time by the New York Times, a known right-wing outlet. And it's about how Hillary Clinton sold a huge portion of America's uranium reserves, precious metal, to a Russian-connected company, a Russian company called Uranium One. So essentially, she accuses Trump of being Putin's puppet, but she sold America's precious metals, thanks to the State Department, to a Russian company. And Trump somehow didn't work this into the debate, which is not a highlight for him. But that said, it's out there, and a lot of you are aware of it, I'm sure, which is good. But it would be nice if he would get on to those points.
Give me your... I've never known you to make a wrong prediction about big stuff so far. We've worked together for what, 2 years, maybe coming up for 2 years, something like that. And you've called every single one of them right so far. So I'm just going to ask you the question I have to ask you. I have to ask. It's the only question that really matters. What's going to happen?
It's impossible to know, and so I'm not going to. I'm not going to go out on a limb.
You didn't do this about Brexit. You said we've got it, and you were right.
So how many of you remember Brexit? See, I love this because this is how informed this audience is, which is that, and I watch a lot of our competitors and colleagues in conservative media, had no clue what it was until the day of the vote. And at Breitbart, we had made it one of our center stories that we covered for months and months ahead of time, because it really was the ultimate battle between unelected, bureaucratic, globalist elite versus the normal people, the little people, the ordinary people of the United Kingdom, and saying we are not going to continue to give power to these guys who do not speak for us. They try to enrich themselves and their buddies at the expense of our sovereignty and the expense of our jobs. And so Breitbart, we're waving the banner for it. How many of you remember what the polls were like on the day of the vote? So you shout it out. What do you think? Yeah, awful. Down between 5 and 10 points, the Leave side, which was the side that wanted the UK out of the EU. And the results weren't just a Leave victory. It actually was 4 points. It was a 4 percentage point win. You might recall also the 2014 election that we knew it would be a good night for the Republicans, but we had no clue it was going to be one of the biggest bloodbaths in American electoral history. So that said, in 2012, the polls nailed it right on the money. Nate Silver from, where is he, ESPN now? But it was a New York Times. I can't keep up with it now. But he was
wherever he's being wrong this week.
Yeah, well, that's it. He's wrong in one of those two places. But he nailed every state in 2012. He's a man of the left, the man of the mainstream media. So what is it? Is it Brexit? Is it 2014? Or is it 2012? It's hard to say, but I do know that all of you who are getting discouraged at this point, if you're Trump supporters, and I see a few red hats in the audience, which is good. I didn't know that those were allowed. I thought that you have to have like a
it's hate
trigger
speech
warning.
on campus.
Yeah, no, I know.
It qualifies as hate speech.
How is that not hate speech, though, relative to the standard that the campuses have created? That's going to be my question for you after this. But
that doesn't work like that. I'm interviewing you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, right. But that's it. That's it. So we don't really know. All I know is that all of the tracking polls have Trump ahead. If you look at the logic from Brexit, Trump's ahead. If you look at the logic from 2014, Trump's ahead. But if you look at the university polls, Trump's getting his ass kicked. So who knows how it's going to end up. But all of you who are Trump fans who are discouraged, there's simply no reason to believe the mainstream media hype at this point. And you should be rallying as many people as you can to get the word out, to get the facts out, that this thing is absolutely a race.
Well, since you mentioned that, let me ask you, you're the editor of what is arguably the most influential news service in America now. It's a website that Trump couldn't have been Trump without. It's a site that has a higher profile than ever before, as more readers, more writers, packs more of a punch.
Yep.
How can readers of Breitbart and fans of Trump and people who are in the conservative movement, how do you get the facts out to those undecideds that Trump needs so much when you have this gigantic wall of just lies? Part of what's fueling Donald Trump is the fact that the press has lied to and lied about people for decades, and it is now bringing the full force of all of its mendacious apparatus to bear on this election. How do you beat that?
Yes, so this is a fantastic question, and something that it's a wonderful, Milo, incredible.
Whoever wrote it, I'm grateful.
So Scott Rasmussen is a pollster. He has Rasmussen Reports. Many of you, if any of you are trivia fans, he also invented ESPN, really weird, and then he sold it 2 years later. But he once said, I had a lunch with him a couple of years ago, and he pointed out something that I've never forgotten, which is that people don't necessarily buy into what the pundits have to say. They're not necessarily listening to Rush Limbaugh or Rachel Maddow, or they're not really changing people's minds. But what they are doing is they're arming you, so you can go out, the individual, and talk with people who know you and trust you. Because everyone from afar thinks Milo and I are insane people because we like Trump and we're conservatives and we actually like fighting for our values, as opposed to grabbing our ankles like so many of the Republican establishment. Are we triggered? We're triggered already?
I like that too.
Already? That's two trigger. I'm supposed to give you a warning before I say this.
The whole point is you give them first.
Sorry, I keep getting this confused.
Otherwise, they're just apologies.
Retroactive trigger warnings don't work.
They're just apologies.
Right.
Otherwise.
Okay. So, but if you meet us in person, we'll talk to you and we'll be reasonable with you and we'll let you have your say, etc. And many of you are probably the same way. So my highest recommendation: arm yourself with all the facts you can, all the data you can, and particularly responses to left-wing attacks, which are generally pretty vapid, pretty superficial, and you can parry them easily with even a cursory amount of research. And luckily, Milo and his team do most of that for you, because he ends up writing on most of the key topics or speaking on them. And then you must engage your friends and family. You cannot opt out on whether it be on social media, whether it be when you're at parties, whenever you're interacting with other people in your life. That's simply the only way to get votes, is if you, the people, speak and say, I don't believe what the Clinton News Network, that's what we call CNN, I don't believe what the Clinton News Network tells me to believe. I don't accept it. I think that you can still get some information from there, but check out Breitbart, check out the Drudge Report, of course, that's still the greatest website of all time, and you can get a different perspective. And you have to share it with people. Politics is local. You have to share it with individuals in your life.
So let me ask you a more dangerous question.
Okay.
I just got the flash of the eyes being like, watch it.
This is not the delightful faggot tour.
No,
this is
no, Although I am delightful.
We did a focus group. We poll tested it. We used the same people as Hillary Clinton uses to do our focus. and dangerous faggot tour won. So.
No, but but then she came out. I should have been deplorable faggot. Can you believe?
It's such
Can you
a bummer.
believe? 3 weeks after we got that bus wrapped. It's 30 grand to get that bus done. 3 weeks afterwards, she comes out with basket of deplorables, and deplorable faggot is so much better.
No,
It's so much.
it's good. You're right.
Still, we did at least get the old dear to read out some of our headlines.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
Milo's
we did.
in particular.
Yes. No. It's like pissing off your gran. You sort of really
was that
upset.
homophobic of her to read out your headlines like that, based on the left's own standards?
I mean, nobody knows.
He wasn't thinking he was posing there. That's
No,
one of
I've
his
got a
good
photographer up the front. I was just, I was giving
Yeah.
my thoughtful.
Yeah.
12 minutes in, do the thoughtful
Iconic.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Probably. What was amazing? Well, two things are amazing about it. Obviously, I had a reporter from Time magazine in my living room. Actually, he wrote the profile for Bloomberg Business Week, and he was just sitting there watching me kind of do these sort of twirls and cheers as she was reading out in all seriousness, intending to show to the audience what a disgusting, hateful, toxic website that Breitbart is.
Yeah.
And she
No,
starts-
I had to go to the urgent care center that day because I'd hurt my arm. Too much fist pumping.
she reads it out with a straight face, with that sort of, swallowed a lemon kind of thing. No, it's just like pissing off your grandma at Thanksgiving. And she's like, to give you a flavor of his work, here are some headlines, and I'm not making this up. Birth control makes women unattractive and crazy. And her own audience burst out laughing because it's so funny.
Yeah.
And then she stumbles over the next one and finally gets it out. Would you rather your child had feminism or cancer? And she's looking around the room for someone to be horrified along with her. And her own audience is just being like, I gotta look this up. But the real thing about it was that she was attempting to present these as sort of like wacky, hateful, fringe, lunatic, woman-hating kind of, blog posts from some whatever. Actually, when people then go and Google it and they read about it and they're like, guy's hilarious. It's really funny. And this is full of evidence and facts, and it's like, wow, maybe I shouldn't be on the pill.
And this is a big...
Because I might turn into Hillary Clinton.
And this is a big evolution.
But of course, she doesn't need to be on the pill.
You're reading the National Enquirer again.
No, I always make this joke about, the only thing she likes more than clamping down on free speech is scissoring. And only some audiences get it. But, anyway, I interrupted you.
No, but this is a huge evolution from my time in college, and I went to UC Berkeley, and I finished there about 9-10 years ago.
The Lion's Den.
And while I was there, the left had a huge monopoly on humor. It was anyone who was funny was left-wing and had an orthodoxy of pushing progressive values. And now, all of a sudden, those same people are the scolds. They're the people who are so easily triggered. They're the people who melted down when I put a Harambe photo as the lead story at Breitbart News the other day. And I did it specifically to watch them melt down, and they couldn't help themselves, as I was trying to trigger them with a troll, thus Harambe photo on the front page of a serious website. They can't handle that anymore, and they're explaining to us, you cannot have a sense of humor anymore. And part of it is because of the one dangerous faggot that we have here, who is taking back humor for the freedom lovers, the free speech lovers in this country, which is quite refreshing. And a round of applause to Milo for that.
Well, thank you. Don't let me... I feel like you went for the applause a little early. You surely have more to say on that subject.
I could go on.
Don't let me stop you.
I could go on.
All right,
he limits me to 30 to 45 minutes of Milo praise per appearance.
That's a lie. All right, my dangerous question. Donald Trump is implying that the election is rigged.
Yeah.
I think many Americans have a feeling, with some justification, that the system is entrenched, certainly, towards certain interests.
Right.
Certainly the Democrats have in the past expressed concern about this. Hillary's own team, we know from WikiLeaks, were worried about voter fraud on Obama's behalf.
Yeah.
Austria has widespread voter fraud. There's no reason to suppose America is immune from it. Is there anything that you can do to fight it? Do you have a view on it? I speak to very intelligent people who say, well, of course it is, and come up with some very reasonable sounding responses to this. Do you have a view on this? Because it seems like most of Trump's base are kind of on board with this, I think, because they have a sort of instinctive feeling that which part of what fuels him in the first place, that the system is gerrymandered toward establishment interests, and of course Hillary Clinton will be the beneficiary of all of that. Bernie, suffered as a result of that, and many of his voters were irritated by the end of it. To the extent that you can tell us, do you think that that's the case? Do you think the election is? Do you think that there's a sort of secret inbuilt advantage that people don't know about? Do you think there is outright stuff? Look, this is a campaign, let's remember, that we now know from the James O'Keefe videos, at least they seem to show it, is sending people down to start physical altercations at Trump rallies. These videos purport to show, widespread voter fraud, terrorism, if you want to put a big word on what they were doing in Chicago. Is it reasonable that this will be going on too?
Okay, well, so in a nutshell, there's without a doubt the system is rigged and the election is rigged. I say that definitively. The question is, what is the definition of rigged? Is there enough of Democrats stealing votes? And I think that's what the media is trying to make it sound like what Trump is saying. But Trump always, when he says the word rigged, he always follows it up with conversation about the media. And that is where Breitbart comes in and where MILO comes in. And absolutely, we believe that when you look at it and you're seeing 30-to-1 coverage of, in the same week, WikiLeaks comes out, says that Hillary Clinton told a Brazilian bank that her dream is open borders. That means no America, folks. By the way, if there were no borders, there's no country. Do people agree with that? Then it's just a blob of land somewhere between Mexico and Canada that maybe they merge into each other. You don't have a country without borders. And this was not discussed on any of the mainstream outlets because the mainstream outlets were so busy dedicating tens, if not hundreds of hours to something Donald Trump said on a hot mic 11 years ago, some trash talk. Not say I'm defending what Trump said. And by the way, Milo, I had to look up hot mic. It isn't just the chocolate-covered gentleman you're going to be spending the weekend with. Which is what I thought it was.
Too easy.
It's
easy. It's too easy. Not untrue, but too easy.
He's a graduate student. He has a few tattoos.
I don't sleep with people with degrees.
So, so the media absolutely has a rig. The fact that we are not, that the signature moment of this campaign is that one candidate does not believe in borders is corrupt. That shows the system is rigged. It should be, and that should be the debate. Hillary should have to explain why she believes that we do not have sovereignty in the United States of America, that people can move in and out freely. And I should note, she was paid $250,000 to say that. Would anyone pay Hillary Clinton $20 to hear her speak in this audience? She's quite literally one of the least interesting people in the country. All the things she says are talking points that she's focus grouped and poll tested. And so where is the money going? Why is someone paying her that much money? Clearly it's about access. And we joke we're having a good time. It's at least we're trying to. But the point is that it is more evidence of corruption, that she would not just say this, but she says it for a massive fee to a foreign bank. And that this is not discussed relative to colorful and I'll say inappropriate comments from Donald Trump, not 100-to-1, not 1,000-to-1, a godzillion to 1. This shows you that the system's rigged. Now, when it comes to voter fraud, that's still a possibility. Obama joked in 2008 that he's relieved that Democrats are in charge of counting the vote in Ohio. I don't think he's joking about that because when votes are stolen, they go to Republicans. I think they tend to go to Democrats. That's
Why
the bottom
do
line.
dead people always vote Democrat?
That is the question of the day, is it not?
Yeah. It's remarkable How no matter what your opinions when you were alive,
Yes.
as soon as you die, you show up on the voter rolls as a Democrat voter. It's amazing, isn't it?
That's
Something
how it goes.
happens at death.
Well, as the Democrats say, vote early and vote often. But one note. Are we not in the middle of a news cycle where the Democrats are accusing the Russians of rigging this election with only circumstantial evidence? And yet, so the Russians are rigging this election, but Trump can't say the election's rigged. Okay, fine. So not to mention we're in an era where there's hacking that's widespread that could affect the vote. And here's the last point on this, which is the Democrats must have very selective memories in the mainstream media when talking about the outrage, the pearl-clutching over Trump saying the election could be rigged and he might not accept the results. I'm old enough to remember the year 2000 when one Albert Gore decided that he would hold up the democratic process for weeks on end with suing everyone he possibly could because he believed the results were not legitimate. He did not accept the results. Again, you have to go to places like Breitbart if you want to see this counter-argument because the mainstream media is trying to stifle any sort of dissent. Not to say we're right all the time, not to say you should only get your news from us. But the point is that we are providing a certain level of balance, and our numbers are growing because we provide a stark contrast to the corruption, to the media trying to rig this election.
Let's change the tone, move into a happier, hypothetical place, a glorious, glittering, gold, marble, enamel, lustrous future. Lustrous future in which Pennsylvania Avenue is paved with 18-karat gold and diamond T's.
Yes.
When Trump wins,
Yes.
what is America going to be expecting from him? Because he says, first day in office, first thing he's going to do, so and so on. But what is America going to be expecting from him? What has he got to prove? Because he's got a lot to prove. But
right.
Sort of his first 50 days, when America is looking, even some of the people perhaps who voted for him are saying, can this guy really be president? What have we done? Like, is this okay? What are people going to be looking for him to do?
It's a great question. I think that his agenda he laid it out pretty concisely in the first half hour of the debate. Of course, we have to talk about him saying he's going to keep us in suspense. I'm not sure who wrote that line. I think that kind of gave the media what they wanted. But early in the debate, he lined out, first of all, his vision on immigration. He said, we're going to build the wall. He brought that back. And does anyone like that idea, building the wall? Who's going to pay for the wall, by the way?
There we go.
Last I checked. So starting on that project, that's his signature issue. So that should be, and starting with the Supreme Court appointment. It's if Trump loses, in all likelihood, it's going to be because the conservative base was so outraged over his personal character flaws, which, don't get me started on that relative to Hillary Clinton, who sold parts of our government to enrich herself personally and her foundation. That level of corruption doesn't, again, you can't talk about that. We don't have time.
I don't think Trump has any character flaws. He's the perfect
Go
man.
on.
He's wonderful.
So, but I do think it's key. He starts, he's going to have a Supreme Court pick right away in all likelihood because they're not going to get confirmed the President Obama's pick, and that he's got to start picking those pro-life conservative people to establish his base. And I think then relating to mainstream America, relating to people who have never had conservative values and conservative principles, they've never been spoken to because so many people in Washington who are right of center only speak to one another. They only speak to people who wear elbow patches and horn-rimmed glasses, and they congratulate themselves at cocktail parties, but they don't get anything accomplished, and they've lost 5 of the last 6 popular votes. And Trump's got to reach out to a lot of people who you could convert, who are just waiting to be spoken to. The same way that so many people on the campuses, Milo's whole thesis of what he's doing, is there's so many people on the campus who just want to be spoken to. It's just, I think I identify with what you're saying. Just come talk to me. Don't let it be 100% left-wing globalist values and 0% conservative libertarian values. And that's wide open in this country. Is that there just isn't the dialogue between academia, between Hollywood, and between the mainstream media. It's so overwhelmingly left-of-center globalist. And Trump has got to start communicating his message of conservatism, libertarianism, nationalism, populism to the masses. I think that's what he's got to do early on.
And then take it back to the bad world if he doesn't win. If he doesn't make it, if the worst imaginable thing happens, I think people have some idea of what Hillary's America might look like. First and Second Amendments under very serious and real threat. There's no reason to suppose that America will be immune from what is happening elsewhere in the Western world. But a more interesting question for culture is, the Never Trump crowd, the Paul Ryans of this world, involve some people we used to work with, believe that if Trump were to lose, that the movement behind him would evaporate. You and I think, take a different view. What's going to happen to this populist, conservative and libertarian uprising that resists, globalism, resists political correctness? What is going to happen to all of that energy? Because an enormous and very exciting head of steam is built on this thing. And it's sort of drawn into its orbit a number of very different constituencies. You've got young sort of cultural libertarians, mischief makers, dissidents, sort of trolley, college-educated younger people. You've got the alt-right. You've got various different things. Certainly a lot of Breitbart readers fall into this category. What happens to all of that energy if Trump doesn't make it?
Well, I think it actually continues to grow. I think this is a revolution. It's a movement, and I think it's expanding. And I don't think Hillary Clinton getting elected is going to stop that, because the bottom line is she's a deeply unpopular candidate, whether or not she wins. And if she wins, that doesn't stop the momentum that's happening, that people with the values that we have, the values that we share with MILO, it's on the march at such a rapid rate. It's really quite rare in American history that this has happened. And you don't always win the first election where you're on the national stage. You don't always win the first game. And that's okay. And being the party in opposition is something that is a wonderful place to be in, because Hillary is going to continue to expand the government. She's not going to create wealth. She's not going to create security. And leftism will continue to grow in this country. And if we are effective in continuing to prosecute the case against the left and the globalists, then we're going to continue to get supporters. There's no doubt in my mind that that's going to be the case. And I'm ready for Hillary. Bring it on, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, she'll enter the White House as the most unpopular president possibly in the history of the office, right? On day one.
And that'll be very difficult for her. It'll be very challenging. And there's a lot of things now with the growing movement that so many of you are a part of, even just the free speech movement, that she's said that Breitbart News might not have a right to exist. This is the country, with last I checked, the First Amendment. This is what makes us better than the European elite, is that we actually have freedom of speech here. Not to mention, we also have the Second Amendment, which we learned in the WikiLeaks, which we can't talk about again because not enough time, too many Trump scandals. She also wants to take away the Second Amendment by executive action on gun control. And so with the First and Second Amendments under assault, these are not partisan issues. These are issues that America sees as key and core to who we are and what we are. The border being another one. If her dream is open border, and that's what she stated publicly, I don't see how she's going to have an effective administration with those policies. So watching her struggle will create a lot of openings for people like you and I to continue to grow what our values and pushing them out there.
Are you surprised that she wants to be president? Are you surprised that she's still going? I mean, she must be looking ahead at the prospect of 4 years in the White House with dread and horror, surely. I mean, her life is going to be miserable. It's going to be hellish. I mean, fine, she's president, but isn't that life going to be just awful?
What do you picture her days like? Give me what you think of as Hillary when she gets up. What does she do?
When she wakes,
what does she eat?
Well, okay, she wakes up in hospital, has her morning shots, goes back to sleep.
Yeah, I was going to say it's nap time already.
Nap time, dreams of Huma. Wakes up in the afternoon, signs something, falls over on her way to the bog.
I don't even know what that means, and I love it.
What do you think? It's a bathroom. We call it a bog.
Oh,
we have very good slang in England.
Yes,
it's
I
very
know
good.
that.
It's very good. You go for a slash in the bog.
Got it.
It's good Anglo-Saxon
Yes.
slang. And then maybe she'll show up for a dinner once a week or something.
Yes.
Maybe this is not so bad after all.
No, it sounds very doable then. You've scared me.
Yeah, maybe she'll be fine.
Yeah, now I feel like she's up to it. No, it's...
Let me ask you, actually, sorry.
Yes.
Let me ask you. So we started off with a vast right-wing conspiracy to shed doubt about Hillary's health.
Right.
And a Huffington Post writer was fired and had his entire archive nuked from the site for questioning her health. And then a couple of weeks later, the Washington Post comes out and says, okay, Hillary's health is an electoral issue.
Right.
All right, okay, it is no longer ignorable, when she's sort of stumbling into vans, and things like on a beautiful, balmy day, that are possibly the nicest day of the year. And she has an overheating incident.
Yeah, overheated at 78 degrees. But I'm going to take on Putin.
And then, of course, they say she's got the flu, and Bill goes off script, and there's all these...
Yeah.
I love, like, my favorite thing in the world is to look up all of the videos on the internet where people are trying to see shapes in her clothes,
yes,
wondering if it's a catheter or a pacemaker, because this is what happens when you lie to people for so long. They have to draw their own conclusions. When you're not honest with people, when you don't just say, okay, here's the deal, guys, it's left to our feverish imaginations. So we all sort of try to speculate, we imprint what it might be. You've got these blog posts from nurses and doctors saying, definitely Parkinson's, and nobody knows. Nobody knows. And there's that guy, the guy with the EpiPen, and actually, no, it was just a flashlight. A flashlight, not a flashlight. A flashlight.
By the way, I've suggested Milo endorse the flashlight for his podcast. Any thoughts?
No.
Too silly?
No. I'm Catholic. I don't masturbate. You're a Catholic. You don't masturbate either, presumably.
I'll go with what he said.
Right. Do you think that there is do you think there's more to come out? Do you think that she does? I mean, we like to joke about her being tired all the time, and she obviously is. But is there something more we're not being told? Because you being very well connected,
yeah,
and you talk to other people, you hear stuff that that for various reasons can't be run on the site. All sorts of things like that. From what you hear from your sort of insider gossip in this town and elsewhere, is there more to come out? Should people be worried? What's your sort of assessment of the state of play? I mean, do you buy the line that she had flu, now she doesn't, and we're all good?
Yeah, well, I host a national radio show, and I have doctors call in and give me their theories, and the thing that is consistent is the inconsistency. And this is the thing about Hillary's health, which is the most important part, is that it speaks to the fact that only 11% of the people in this country find Hillary trustworthy. And that's a poll by noted right-wingers at NBC News who conducted that one. It's a 11% find her trustworthy.
I want to know who these 11% of people are. They're the dead voters, aren't they?
The
11%. 11% of dead. 10 out of 10 dead people polled find Hillary Clinton trustworthy.
I think the stat's a little dated.
The margin of error is 11%.
Yeah. I think the stat's a little dated, so don't fact check me on this. But I remember my old boss, Larry Elder, who's a talk show host, used to have a line where he'd note that according to a poll, 11% of people think Elvis is alive. So that's roughly the same amount of people.
13% of people believe in Bigfoot.
13%. Okay,
13%
so
Americans.
fewer people find Hillary trustworthy than believe
this
in
section
Bigfoot.
of the
So
audience,
we've established.
you guys in front of the white thing, you guys believe in Bigfoot in this audience. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So I think that her health is obviously a concern. She doesn't look well. I think, but you can't say that because now we're in an era where saying anything negative about a woman is sexism, saying anything negative about a minority is racism. And
if you do it about a black woman on Twitter, you're really fucked.
Yeah.
She does look like a man. She just does. It's my great regret. So
it is going to be funny in Milo's eulogy when it says, first man kicked off of Twitter for negative Ghostbusters review.
No, I mean, so I got some amazing quotes into GQ Australia this week that included, I think I'm the best person I know. Like, I'm really the best at being a person. I'm witty, charming, handsome, funny, really successful. No, I'm a really great person. And they just printed it.
Undeniable.
And the second quote was, this, he says, as he strokes his face, is a very high testosterone jawline. This is just me, like, just trolling. This poor guy is flown from Australia, and he's in New York. And we walk through the Met, and everyone's like, Milo, Milo, Milo. He's like, oh my God, you might, okay, all right, fine, I'll take this seriously. And just publishes anything.
Yeah.
I can't remember why I'm telling you this.
No, well, no, it's important that we talk about you for at least some of this. I mean, don't you guys agree? We
No,
gotta talk about Milo for a little bit.
Oh, yeah, let's just, no, but you were saying about disagreeing with...
But the issue is corruption and transparency more than anything else. I don't believe she's fully well. I don't think that she's probably well enough to travel around the world at this point in time, that she sees red, and that red is power for herself. That's how the Clintons have always operated. They consider themselves above the law. We're accepting, just know this, folks, if Hillary wins, even if you like Hillary, you have to acknowledge we're accepting a level of corruption unprecedented in American life. And that's something that's significant. And the bottom line is she lies so effortlessly, and that is one of the main concerns about her, is that she has a public position and a private position. She says to the banks that we're going to funnel more money to Wall Street, we're going to cut better deals. And she says to the Bernie supporters, well, we don't want Wall Street, we want to hold them to account. It's what is it? Who is this woman? And the fact that we don't get straight answers on whether or not she's physically fit to travel the world, defeating ISIS is going to be one of her tasks. Standing up to Putin is going to be one of her tasks. We've got an encroaching China, that's one of her tasks. We have an open border with people flooding in. That's one of her tasks. And we can't discuss her health because it's an invasion of her privacy. Give me a break.
Did you see that thing about, her bus? She's got like an SUV, like a big bus.
Yes.
Did you see that thing? Somebody looked up the specs of this bus. She's
Yes.
got a bed in it.
Yes, I heard that.
So so she doesn't even have to drive to places. She can literally sleep her way.
This isn't going to be another Huma joke.
No, but now
Okay,
you've said it.
Okay.
Permanent Muslim companion just laying there waiting to be. No, but.
That wasn't what I was getting at.
It's the only thing she wakes up for these days. It's their as yet unreleased WikiLeaks. This is what he was talking about when he said he had a surprise for John Podesta.
But I have to flip this.
Changing the subject now.
I'm absolutely changing the subject because I want to ask what everyone else wants to know, which is that what happens with Milo should Daddy not make it to the finish line? And by the way, for the record, I think it's quite likely Trump wins, and I'm on the record with that. But let's say it doesn't happen. What happens to the dangerous faggot?
Well, I won't be press secretary, will I? It'd be very sad. I wanted to turn it into a reality show.
Yeah.
I wanted so the White House press. I mean, I wouldn't be the first or second or even perhaps the ninth choice for that job, but I wanted to turn it into a reality show. I was going to pitch. I was going to pitch it. Basically, you throw the Washington Post and the New York Times to the back of the room.
Yeah.
You bring TMZ, Vice,
Yeah.
Breitbart,
like
Entertainment Television,
That's good.
Fashion TV, all these people to the front, so they're in the front row, and basically you just talk about Ivanka's outfits,
Yeah.
You just go and say, yeah, Daddy's off to Russia today, did you see what she was wearing? And
then all White House press briefings will have to say who Milo's wearing.
Yeah. Mr. Anopoulos is wearing a made-to-measure wool suit, Gibbs and Hawkes, $2,500. Well, these are the things people want to know.
Yeah.
These are the things. This is how we got.
You're more correct than you think, which is that the fact that so many people are tuning out of the political process hurts us because the people with the captive audiences are academia, the media, and the entertainment industry, all of which are left. So I'm actually pro putting fashion TV in the front row of the press corps. I admit it. It's a great idea.
I think it'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
And you could just spend. I mean, this is assuming, of course, if he doesn't win, and Trump TV surfaces, my plan is to pitch, Good Morning with Milo.
Yeah.
And it's 3 hours, between 6
Only
and 9.
3.
Every day. 3 hours between 6 and 9 of me just sort of roasting Rosie O'Donnell, Lena Dunham, and Amy Schumer. Just endlessly. I mean, who wouldn't want to wake up to that? Who wouldn't want to wake up to that? Idiot feminist of the week. You could most petulant and ridiculously ineffective Black Lives Matter protester of the afternoon. You could have so much fun. I think, what I want to do is I want to make kids' TV for grown-ups.
Yeah.
And I want, I just want a show full of just the most outrageous. I want to turn morning TV on its head. Throw out the received wisdom about morning TV, which is you've got to be nice and presentable and kind and sweet and family friendly. No, I want everyone in America to be tuning in the morning to hear me cussing out overweight, talentless, progressive lunatics who are propelled onto magazine covers by virtue of their politics and connections, not through any talent whatsoever. Lena and Amy, people that nobody finds funny, that nobody likes. We are instructed by the powers that be that we must find these women admirable, and nobody likes them. Well, I think there's a little bit of a reckoning is due.
Yeah, and that's important. That's
an
important contrast because
you could go down to to protests, and
Yeah.
you could do sort of Joan Rivers kind of fashion police, at Black Lives Matter protests. You say, honey, who are you? Just put the torch down, put the gun down. Who are you wearing? I think it would be great.
Tall T from I got it on.
No, it'd be like True Religion, yeah, Robin's jeans. Oh my God, are they foam posits? It'd be fantastic. I feel like it would disarm. I think it would neutralize a lot of racial tension in this country. Just calm down, put the baton down, and talk to me about what you're wearing. I think it'd be great.
Milo will be the first staffer in the White House known as the racial healer. As his
Yeah, well,
position.
the last guy didn't do such a good job.
But I think that would be. See, this is. But you mentioned Lena Dunham and Amy Schumer, and it's important to note how these people are foisted upon us. But just for the record, I've heard enough period jokes. Can we move on from this? Like as a society, how many period jokes do we need? Have we hit a sufficiency there? It's an Amy Schumer message.
What were you doing?
Yeah.
What were you doing?
I have my basket full of period jokes, and
like you're crouching underneath, collecting it.
That's not true.
It was a very
You told me that
physical
enough.
hand gesture. Period jokes. It was horrible. It was horrible. Like some sort of modern art project. Some feminist just drenches herself in it.
Oh, it's like one of Milo's talks. It's like what happens in the audience.
People hurling blood on themselves for attention. Yeah. Whatever next. I know.
But this is the if Milo had the correct politics, he would have the career that these ladies have, if not bigger, because he's funnier and smarter and more informed. But he doesn't get anointed by a media class that he is the visionary of his generation, and he is the voice of his generation simply because he has the correct politics. And that's what we talk about when we talk about things being rigged in this country.
I think that's a smart answer to the question. What? I'm allowed to compliment him. He signs my checks. I think it's a smart answer to the question I asked, and I want to go back to a sort of movement question.
Sure.
I want to go back to politics for a second. The Republican Party. I mean, Breitbart's made no secret of the fact that it has had some differences of opinion with the Republican Party establishment over the years. Breitbart's been a sort of site where you could go if you were a grassroots conservative, frustrated with the party leadership, frustrated with the establishment, frustrated with this town. The Republican Party looks like it's splitting in two. It looks like it's splitting in two between, the sort of the cucks and never-Trumpers, who basically have a few election cycles left until they and all of their supporters die, because they're not being replaced by anyone younger. Average age 72. Then you have the younger conservative movement, which is the Trump, the Breitbart kind of generation, who care about borders, care about trade, care about political correctness, and are prepared to fight for those things, unlike their grandparents in the National Review. What happens to the Republican Party whether Trump wins or loses? Because it seems like that process is already in motion.
Yeah.
It seems like that schism's already happened, and these people are now moving ever further apart from one another. What's the future, irrespective of the outcome of the election?
Yeah, I think this is interesting because it brings up the whole Trump. Why Trump's been successful is, first of all, it's been a three-legged stool, I think, and the two legs are policy, which is immigration and trade, where he was way ahead of the Republican Party, noting that if we have open borders, we're erasing the United States of America as we know it. And that's number one. Number two, trade, which is that we're a trade deficit some odd 10%, and it's hurting the American worker. It's a wages are flat, home ownership flat. It's a 94 million people out of the workforce. That's not good. So those are things where he was a visionary. But the last thing, and this is the one that I think is most important to this audience, is the cultural component. The fact that he will speak his mind, the fact that he will not be cowed by cultural norms and what people think of as rules that we must use, particularly when expressing ourselves. And this is something that's been totally different. And in particular, he's willing to fight. He's willing to fight with people. He's willing to call out people by name. We have on the right now the biggest weapon that we could use against someone on the left in my lifetime, which is these WikiLeaks drops, which is we've got tens of thousands of emails, internal documents from John Podesta, the person who's not just runs the Clinton campaign, but one of the biggest figures on the entire left, with him colluding with journalists, with him revealing Hillary saying one thing and not the other, incredible amounts of corruption. And Marco Rubio, who is the chosen candidate of Fox News and the establishment, had said this week that he believes we should not use that weapon. He believes we should not use the WikiLeaks to go after Hillary Clinton. And now his point is, which is interesting, which is that he says it's going to be us next, which is true. But the fact of the matter is we were handed a club for the first time in forever and said, here you go, you can beat them with this club. And then Marco Rubio throws it aside and just says, no, I'm too good for that club. And it's the sort of
Probably
thing where
did
I'm
it
sitting there
exactly
going,
like that.
Just
with the head toss.
Do you not understand why you got your butt kicked in the primaries? Why you lost your own state by 20 points to a New York billionaire? He did this specifically because the right does not know how to fight. And this is why Milo's been so refreshing to some of you guys, why Breitbart's been refreshing to others, is simply we are willing to fight the left, and we are willing to do whatever we can. And I think history will be very kind to us, and that they will see that even if they disagree with us on certain issues, they will like that finally there was a fight in this country for what this country stands for, and not simply one side getting everything at once and the other side kowtowing and, can I say grabbing ankles again? It didn't go over well last time.
That's fine.
Grabbing their ankles.
That's fascinating. Didn't quite answer the question. Which was, I only get the opportunity to do this when we're Republic.
Yeah.
In terms of sort of what the elections look like is for the Republican Party, do you think that are there going to be two parties? And to take it a step further, do you think the same thing's going to happen to the left too?
That's a good question. What happens on the left is who knows, because I think that they had a major setback and that Bernie caved so quickly. I think a lot of people probably here are probably Bernie supporters who are probably very disappointed that he stood up for a lot of this populism, and then immediately when he lost, and that election was totally rigged. You guys are aware of that. The Democratic election was, the emails, there's a paper trail a mile long of the Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Donna Brazile doing everything they could to elect Hillary Clinton, the top people in the Democratic Party. Absolutely outrageous, and Bernie stopped fighting, which is it's not good. So I don't know. I feel like the Clintons have control more than the Republican establishment does. And part of it is the Republican establishment has been so unappealing. And I think that the Trump movement, the populist nationalist movement, is just so much more appealing than the establishment Republican movement. And you see it in the polls. The polls already identify Trump as a spokesman of the party,
That's the enthusiasm
not Paul
gap
Ryan.
thing as well, isn't it? You know,
exactly.
You look at the size of crowds that he can bring in. You look at the smiles on people's faces. You look at the energy in the room. The high energy, the phrase has not attached itself to Donald Trump for no reason.
Right.
And Sanders had it too.
Yes.
And not for nothing. It's difficult, really, because the average age of some generally Republican supporting TV stations are 70, 71, 72. It seems to go up every year,
right?
Which suggests that the viewers are dying and they're not being replaced by younger people, which is the most obvious analysis of that phenomenon, that the average age of the viewers going up by 1 year is that
let me ask you about this,
dying.
Because you're literally the only person on the right who tries to speak primarily to younger people. That understanding that, by the way, young people are allowed to vote. How come you're so smart?
Someone else wants.
That's the question. How come you're so smart?
Well, I don't think I'm the only person. I just think I'm the only person that does it well. It just has always seemed obvious to me. You know, it's remarkable because when I started working 2 years ago or so for Breitbart, I'd never met Andrew Breitbart. And he, of course, is the guy most well known for the expression politics is downstream from culture, understanding that once you're talking about policy, you've already lost the battle. And that the real sort of fight for hearts and minds occurs in academia, occurs in the media, occurs in the news business, in entertainment in Hollywood. These places are where you fix the disease. In politics, you can only treat the symptoms. And that always just seemed obvious to me, partly because he'd sort of crystallized it, although I never met him, amazingly. But it always just seemed incredibly obvious to me that if you wanted to beat this thing, you had to do it in colleges. If you wanted to beat this thing, you had to do it in art and culture. And
yes.
It was incredibly obvious to me that that's what people actually care about. People don't care about policy. People don't care about... I mean, most of the people that I know are very smart, don't know what TPP is and don't care to find out. Most of the people I know just don't care about that stuff. But they do care about movies, music, you know, personalities. They care about, you know, they care about culture. So it's obvious to me. This is why I did this art show in New York, you know, because it was this art show where I sort of drenched myself in blood in a bathtub, which was funny. It wasn't funny to be me, by the way, because it was, you know, I was 45 minutes in ice water. I had hypothermia when I left. I was like kind of shaking and
No, I'm actually impressed. You guys don't know the efforts, the physical pain Milo puts himself through.
No, I mean, the hair, the shoes. No, but...
No, but honestly, what was the temperature of the blood?
I live in a 4x4 coffin, you know, and it's a very nice coffin, but, you know, this bus... no, so the water was like, you know, was a couple of degrees. I mean, it had been frozen that morning.
Right, and that's what, when you guys go in a pool, it's like 80 degrees. And Milo's in 45-degree blood for you.
No, I mean, I meant a couple of degrees Celsius, because you people are weird, yeah, 45 degrees. No, but the bathtub, I was in this bathtub and in a Trump hat and some very nice jewelry, and surrounded by pictures of young people, well, pictures of all sorts of people who had been murdered by illegal aliens. And the point of it was to turn the kind of shock value New York art scene that is always pushing in one particular political direction on its head. This art show ended up being not only the first art show to be protested since Piss Christ, which was over 20 years ago, I think, but possibly the first art show in history ever to have been protested by the left. And that demonstrates that the culture wars are shifting, and that now that if you want to be punk, you want to be dissident, you want to be mischievous, you know, you put a "Make America Great Again" hat on. And you know, the reason I did it is it's just very obvious to me that is where the really important conversations are, and that's what people really actually care about. So this is why I do the college campus stuff. So I can't give you a better answer than that, other than it just always seemed obvious to me. It clearly isn't obvious to most of our colleagues.
No, it's not. And if they dedicated a fraction of the time to the culture, then they would. And this is the big key for those of you, because you guys, a lot of you are college students, and if you do have these values, right of center, populist, nationalism, conservatism, my highest recommendation has always been, don't go back into your state house and try to position yourself to run for first dog catcher, and then alderman, and then school board, and then eventually, if you're really lucky, you can be a congressman, where you'll basically do the same stuff as the next guy in line. Don't do that. Go to Hollywood, go into academia, go into the media, and go into these places where the left has utter control, and get out the message. Is we need more conservative homosexuals in bathtubs full with blood than we need another politician in your state house that has these values. And once the right figures that out, they're going to come a long way back.
I think I'd like to turn it over to questions,
that'd
because
be
we have
wonderful.
a little time left, and I know that people will want to know stuff about Breitbart. You don't very often get to hear from this guy out in the wild, because he's normally tucked away in his newsroom, making the front page, the amazing phenomenon that it is, and writing emails to me that just say no, absolutely not, under no circumstances. So he's really the mastermind behind that, and has a better grasp of how the media works than just about anybody. And I'm at your disposal too, of course. So if anybody has any questions...
And questions for Milo. No,
it's an opportunity for them to talk to you.
You have to give name and spirit animal.
Yeah, no. I would like to know your name, your pronouns, your spirit animal.
Yeah.
There are some microphones going around, and I think we have half an hour, so we'll try and get through as many as we can.
Hi, guys. I'm Calvin from MILO. I'm from San Francisco. Do you know it well?
I'm banned from San Francisco. No, did you know we were going to do a meetup in San Francisco, and we got banned?
Milo was banned from San
I was
Francisco.
banned from San Francisco.
Yeah.
So this couldn't handle it. I think I have observed, and this is because that the GOP establishment has decided that Hillary Clinton is easier for them to beat. So what do you guys think?
Well, this is a Congress who thought they could stop Obamacare, right? And couldn't. I mean, this is your wheelhouse, really, rather than mine. But
No, I mean, Obama got almost his entire agenda through. So I don't trust them if they think that way. He's, aside from gun control, he's achieved nearly everything he set out to achieve. If he could do it with the legislative process, he would do it. He passed Obamacare, the biggest piece of legislation maybe in the history of the country, without a single Republican vote. The latest is the Iran deal, which is one of the most disastrous foreign policy deals we've ever had. He couldn't get Congress on board, so he did it himself. And so we're going to trust the people who are completely feckless in stopping Obama, aside from one issue, guns. Obama's achieved nothing on guns. In fact, he's gone backwards. So a small victory there. But yeah, if you want to trust those people, then I think you're making a grave mistake. Because Hillary, that debate, the first half an hour, was the clearest distinction between the two candidates in the whole election. Because they got to four key issues, the courts, guns, abortion, immigration. And the difference couldn't be starker. You have Hillary, who basically defended partial birth abortion until the last second of the pregnancy, who basically said we need to have stricter gun control and wants open borders. And then you have Trump, who wants closed border, who wants to protect the Second Amendment and says is going to appoint pro-life judges. That's all you need to know about the candidates right there in a nutshell. So if you think it's easier to control the person who is promising to only appoint pro-choice, anti-gun judges who believe that not the Constitution should govern the courts, but social justice, which is how she described it, fighting for the little guy, that's the point of the court, not upholding the Constitution, then Hillary's your candidate in a nutshell. So if the Republicans do not see that at this point, they're completely out of their minds and they need to be thrown out.
it seems like the Supreme Court really is the only thing you need to know, right? I mean, you could hate Trump, you could find him boorish, you could find him clownish, you could find him whatever. It doesn't matter what you think of the man. It doesn't matter, about almost anything else. But the fact that the next president could appoint 4 or maybe even more Supreme Court justices seems to me to be the only thing you need to know about this election. And anybody calling themselves a Republican who is not voting for Trump or telling you to vote for Clinton seems to me they deserve to be cast out of the party and hanged from some crane or something. Give them a taste of the woman that they're putting into power, because that's after all what Iran, and Saudi Arabia and her friends in the Middle East who fund her foundation want to do to people like me.
Right, and it's important. I think we touched on that. I would love for you to speak a little bit more about the stakes for gays in this election, because
of course, Trump mentioned this using almost my exact wording, of course.
Couldn't be a coincidence.
I'm sure it's just a coincidence. No, I mean, he said, you are funded by people who murder homosexuals and who oppress women systematically, and this is part of their culture. Are you going to give the money back? I thought it was pretty cool, and probably the standout moment of the debate. But look, I was there in Orlando. I went down there a day or two after it happened, and something that shocks me is that Americans just don't seem to get it, no matter what happens in this country, no matter how bad it gets. 9/11 happened and you still didn't get it. You had 50 gays murdered, you still don't get it. Sandy Hook, whatever. Americans just aren't learning the lesson here. That if you go down this road of electing people like Hillary Clinton, you're going to turn into Europe. It's going to be Sweden or Germany or the UK, and you will not like the result.
One of the best WikiLeaks was when we learned that one of the jihadis who was assassinating people in San Bernardino was named Saeed Farouk. John Podesta said he wished his name was Christopher Hayes, which is the name of the left-wing MSNBC host with the glasses.
And that Saeed Farouk had been reporting the fact.
Yeah, so he's actually wishing it was a white guy because he knows that it's a vulnerability, Islam and the encroaching threat within the United States. is something that could potentially turn off left-wing voters, because they understand, hey, if you're pro-gay, how are you supportive of the radical elements of a faith that could be just devastating towards homosexual life?
Yeah. Well, blacks aren't getting it with immigration. They're still going to vote for the Clintons. But I think gays might be. I think they're quieter about it. And I think they're getting it. And the last election in the UK, 50% of gay men said they were going to vote for the Conservatives. And I've noticed from the stuff that I did at the RNC, the Twinks for Trump party and all this kind of stuff, I think there's a huge groundwell of support for Trump. I mean, of course there is, because he's so camp. You know, and he's the drag queen you can vote for. Of course he's a gay icon. I mean, look at him. But seriously, but on the Islam question, I think there's a really serious... there's a real serious recognition there that Hillary Clinton is a danger to all of the groups that progressives and social justice warriors profess to support and profess to look after. There doesn't seem to be any question about that.
Let's take another question.
Yes.
So good evening. My name is Henry Huang, and I'm actually from China, other end of the world, the real other end of the world. So, and actually my question wants to focus
Spirit animal, sir.
Nobody's been giving pronouns or spirit animals.
Yeah.
It's obvious my pronoun is he, him, his.
Okay.
And
Yes.
Is that allowed?
And you know why they're your pronouns? Because you were born a man.
okay, so spirit animal, tiger, I love it. Okay, so today the major issue I want to ask is about the T word, Trump. So as a lot of us had realized, has known, is Trump made the lewd comments back in 2005 on women. I mean, personally, I've been staying in America for 4 years. I respect the idea to show some level of respect for the political correctness. However, when it reaches to a level that it's starting to influencing my life, like pronouns, like changing the grammar and stuff, and using instead of just he or I have to use something like he or she, him or her. It makes my paper looks redundant. It makes my speech sounds redundant. Blah blah blah.
This is very underrated. This is the aesthetic argument against these bogus pronouns.
No, are you kidding?
Like shit
It's like they went out and found the ugliest combination of letters in the alphabet. Have you seen these Zias,
exactly
Zims? It's like X, Y, R. It's like they wanted the pronoun to be as ugly as they are.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually my question has two parts. First of all, would both of the speakers agree that what Donald Trump has said in the bus in 2005 is actually stepped over the boundary of what's being like going straight forward and actually being rude and in disrespect to female? And the second part of my question is, will Donald Trump's campaign actually influence the media of how they wording their reports? How would Americans respond to the political correctness in the near future? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take the first one. You take the second one.
No, I want the first one.
Well, I don't know the answer to the second one.
Well, then we'll both have to answer both.
Okay.
Fine. Well, you answer the first one first, then.
Yeah, of course the comments are over the line, but they're irrelevant when I'm happy to hear you disagree. We had a video, an interview that we did over at the Watergate Hotel just a couple of weeks ago with Juanita Broderick, who's one of the women who have accused Bill Clinton of sexual assault, where she describes a brutal rape and then him holding her down and raping her again. He settled the sexual harassment with Paula Jones. He's had affairs with Jennifer Flowers and Monica Lewinsky, as we know. What he's done to disrespect women over his lifetime is unprecedented, and Hillary Clinton ran the war rooms to try to destroy these women's lives. The fact that that's not a factor in the campaign trail because, Bill's not on the ticket. Bill's not on the ticket. Yeah, but you're going to go after Donald Trump because Eric Trump tweeted something stupid. Is Eric Trump on the ticket? No. Family members have been fair game in this election. Aside from Bill, because they know Bill is a huge vulnerability, there have been dozens of women who have accused him of things. A new one came out this week, but again, not a fraction of the coverage at the Clinton News Network. as we received from Donald Trump saying something kind of over the top 11 years ago with Hot Mike.
I don't.
Oh, sorry, on a hot mic. Sorry.
I don't agree. And there'll be people who, for reasons of propriety, and maybe because they think their girlfriends will be watching or whatever, are going to pretend that this is otherwise. I don't know anyone who hasn't said something like that. Maybe I hang out in particularly disreputable circles, but I don't think I do. And I don't believe anyone, I particularly don't believe the people crying foul about it when they say that they've never heard anyone talk like it and they've never said anything like that themselves. Of course they have. That's how people talk. Now, it seems to me the only valid criticism here is, should that be how a presidential candidate talks? And if it isn't, is it acceptable to have a go at him for things he made 11 years ago when he had no idea he would ever be running for president? Seems to me that the way, how presidents ought to talk is part of the speech codes and language codes and stultifyingly dull political correctness that is part of what's energizing the Trump movement in the first place. How presidents ought to talk is part of the problem. And of course, the way that he spoke 11 years ago is completely irrelevant to him running for president now. Aside from all of that, more fundamentally, I just don't care that much about these remarks. I don't believe anyone when they say they've never made a remark remotely like that. I think everyone has. I have, and everyone I know has. Particularly anyone under 30. And I don't think anyone under 30 gives us a flying toss about language like that, because we all talk like that, and pretending otherwise is just lies.
Well done.
Second part of the question. Over to you.
What was the second part?
I can't remember.
Okay, that was good. He got enough time. Let's get to someone else.
My name is Johnny. My preferred pronoun is Your Majesty, and my spirit animal
that's
is
real.
Harambe.
Did you hear about that? This is they get you. Sorry to interrupt you. This is the University of Michigan. Redid their enrollment software so that when you got to college you could choose your pronoun. And they thought, what could go wrong? Well, one enterprising young freshman comes in and he types your Majesty, His Majesty, and all the rest of it in the right boxes. And now, according to the rules at University of Michigan, they are not allowed to he has to be referred to as Your Majesty in seminars. When they're reading out the roll call, when sort of like if he puts his hand up in class, the professors are obliged to say Your Majesty. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I want to apply to college just to do it. Sorry, carry on.
With the left's habit of calling anything and everything racist, it's tempting to conclude that this term is always and everywhere just a meaningless slur. But when you're talking about the alt-right, you're talking about when a label that people who use it for themselves actively insist that they are in fact racist. So I'm just wondering how you define a term, something that's contrary to what the people who describe themselves this way using the term, or how it is that only 2% or whatever number you used can fit the definition of this term.
It's a very good, very reasonable question. I think that the reality is that sometimes how people describe themselves isn't the best way to describe them. It's a sort of a leftist thing, I can describe my own reality, I can describe my own gender, I demand the right to warp around language around my own thing. Clearly, the way, for instance, that feminism describes itself is inadequate to describe that phenomenon. Feminists will, on the one hand, treat men like shit, and on the other hand, say, feminism is just about equality. Clearly, the way feminism describes itself doesn't concord with reality. But as far as the alt-right is concerned, since I've been saying, and I define the alt-right pretty broadly as a sort of broad church of people who are, some of whom are really into the border stuff, some people are really into the sort of preservation of Western civilization stuff, some of them are really into the political correctness stuff. And within that, within those groups, there are people with views that you would probably find unsavory. Those people do tend to. There are some of them who are involved in naming the movement in the first place, and who are some of the most active users. Tell me now that I am underestimating the quantities of people who you would probably find unsavory in the alt-right. I'm open to that argument, but I also have to consider the views of people who are not those, whether they're white supremacists, anti-Semites, white nationalists, however they say that, and we're alt-right, and that's what the alt-right is. Well, yes, those people do say that, but there's a much larger group of people who also describe themselves as alt-right. And I have to, when I'm trying to give an accurate assessment of what this movement is and to sketch out the contours of it. And I think I'm the only person who's really tried to do that fairly without virtue signaling to colleagues about, not being a racist. Just trying to just say what this movement is. Well, I have to balance their loud demands with the quieter requests from far more people that I judge to be far more numerous, who also describe themselves as alt-right, but are what you would consider to be classic Trump voters, whether it's flyover state Trump voters who are worried about immigration and trade, or whether they're classical liberals, cultural libertarians in colleges who are the sort of me trolley guys and who also describe themselves as alt-right. I've done the best job I can in journalism in talks to give what I think is an accurate guide to the contours of the movement. Some people are going to disagree with that. I don't know what else to tell you on that other than to say that there is certainly certainly a clump of the people who at least say, and some of them are probably telling the truth, but he say that they are anti-Semites and white nationalists, and that is what the alt-right is, and that's all the alt-right is. But those people are excluding, I would estimate, 4 in 5 people who describe themselves as alt-right, they want to throw out the church. They have also, by the way, thrown me out of the church. Not that I ever described myself as being in the first place. The media was determined to crown me the queen of the alt-right. All I ever have tried to do is give a fair assessment of it. Well, you'll note that the Daily Stormer, the worst elements of the alt-right, absolutely hate me. They declared, in their words, a holy war against me. And those are the people who tend to say that I'm underestimating the unsavory elements, as you would probably think, as most people would probably think, in the alt-right. The truth is that I'm still doing the best I can, to give an accurate assessment of that. I suppose the 2 to 5% I might nudge up a little bit in the last couple of months, but as I say, you have to balance the very loud minority with the quieter majority and try to give a fair assessment. And I think that the piece that I wrote with Alan Bukhari, Establishment Conservatives' Guide to the Alt-Right, does as good a job as anyone has yet done of that. Thanks.
Amen.
Anyone else? We have things floating around.
Hi. My name's Eleanor, and
Hey.
hi, I was going to ask, the Fat Pride movement, why, I really don't understand, why are they arguing for, them to be really fat, but they know they're, really sick? Why are they arguing for that when they know they're, dying? I just don't understand.
Yeah. It's a good question, and I'm happy to hear a young lady ask it. Obviously smarter than many of your generation. Who have decided to believe that it is better to warp reality around your own preferences and desires and impulses than to be disciplined, than to aspire, than to make yourself better. They want to make the rest of the world worse rather than making themselves better. Well, this is at the heart of liberalism. This is the very essence of left-wing political philosophy, which is, the rest of the world must be warped around my individual egotistical preferences, rather than the aspiration and determination that goes with being conservative. And if you look at very often in the studies, you'll find that if they sort of hide the names and ask people to rank in hotness, about newsreaders or politicians, it's red, then blue. The Republicans always come out hotter. This is true, and there are various theories on this as to is it that you get born ugly so you become left-wing, which seems to be the way it works, because you recognize that you don't conform to traditional beauty standards and you give up trying. So you construct a belief system, or you find a belief system that's going to tell you you're beautiful anyway, even if secretly you know you're
There's
not.
going to be a quiz on this later. I hope people are taking notes.
No, this is really important. This is the most important thing we've spoken about all the time. Or do people who arrive at left-wing politics for whatever reason, does something about those politics encourage them to let themselves go? Well, it might be a bit of both. But the truth is, and is even Lindy West at Jezebel admitted, women who think they don't conform to traditional beauty standards are far more likely to end up left-wing. And we know from every survey, every study.
But here's my question, Milo. Where is the origin of the movement when you think about how
Lesbians. No, the origin of the movement is lesbians.
And the talk comes full circle.
No, it's true. They are the root of all evil. It's true. It's not money, it's dykes. Listen. These gender studies departments, which is where this stuff comes from, populated almost exclusively by women who like women. Well, it's very simple. What happens, lesbian bed death, this phenomenon where women don't sleep with each other in their relationships with women after the first couple of months. Well, you've seen lesbians. You know what they look like. Characterized, but physically very consistently. Well, these women who don't have to keep themselves trim because they're not interested in finding male partners. We, of course, being much more visual animals. Start to construct new systems of man-hating that enable them to eat. And the fat acceptance movement's body positivity is a function of this. It is, in my view, though, to be serious with you and to say one serious thing on the subject. It is the cruelest, most sociopathic, most disgusting bit of modern progressivism. Telling vulnerable, impressionable young women when they get to college that they can eat what they want, they can give themselves avoidable diseases, that they can put themselves into an early grave, and that they will be happy, and that they will find a husband, and that they will be content with their life, and that they are beautiful. And they can do whatever they want to their bodies. They can indulge, they can be gluttons, they can abuse the thing that they've been given that they only get one of. You only get one of these. Some of us, do better than others, but you only get one of them. And to tell young women that you can do anything to your body, and not only will you be healthy, but you'll also be happy, is a lie. And it is a mean, sociopathic, cruel, disgusting lie that we should stop telling young girls.
But why do they say it if they know that they're dying and they're telling people that they can be fat? I don't understand. Why do they say that?
Well, people do a lot of things that are not in their own best interest, like vote Democrat. And
So explain to me the difference between fatties, and smokers. Because smokers are a health issue where there's nothing lower in society than a smoker. Polling shows that parents would prefer that their child cheats on tests than smokes. They actually think of it as a moral failing to smoke. But in terms of health, being morbidly obese, we've now accepted, and in fact, we congratulate people in JCPenney ads if they're morbidly obese.
Yeah. Well, there is
What's
no
the difference?
There's no difference whatsoever. The difference is merely that smoking is fun, and so it has been stigmatized by the left because they hate fun. And
Carbs are fun.
Carbs.
I know you don't remember that, but they are. Milo hasn't had a carb since the tour was announced.
No, that's not true. I've had a couple. I've had a week off because my trainer...
Milo likes to order the carbs, look at them, touch the carb to his tongue, and then put it back down.
No, there's a running joke that's not really a joke. Actually, when I'm in hotels,
not a joke.
I order an Eggs Benedict just to look at it in the morning. And I know I can't eat it, but I just sort of look at it and I give it to someone else. I can't honestly tell you, but what I can tell you is most of the women who are loudest about this movement are very young. They're in their 20s, early 20s. I mean, their frontal lobes aren't even formed yet. And they're being fed messages by culture, which is very powerful. This is why culture matters so much more than politics. Culture can persuade people of bonkers things. Culture can persuade you of wage gaps and rape culture. Culture can persuade you that that Muslims and gays are friends, and we're not friends, and we're never going to be friends. And the only people who don't get that live in New York and Los Angeles. Culture can persuade you of all sorts of things that are not true. And the only explanation I can find is that we have lost glamour and aspiration from culture. Those American ideal body types and beauty standards. We've lost aspiration. We've lost beauty from American popular culture. We are putting women on magazine covers who are objectively unattractive, and we're doing it as as part of therapy culture. We're doing it to make women because we think in culture now that rather than in the 50s and 60s where we would put sort of unattainable, impossible beauty on the screens, and people would have something to aspire to, something to aim for. Now culture thinks that models and the actresses should be relatable so that people don't feel bad about themselves. Well, the fact is, fat shaming works. All the studies prove it works. When somebody that you love tells you you look fat, you stop eating. But now we indulge things in the opposite direction, and we tell everybody, no matter what they are and what they look like, they're beautiful anyway, and they're not beautiful anyway. And that's a very powerful force. It's a very powerful influence. You know, when all of culture and your professors and all the journalists you read, all the news stories and all of the messages coming at you are you can do what you want and you'll be beautiful and healthy, and anyone who says otherwise is a bigot. Well, it's easy to understand how women get themselves into trouble, I think.
Hey, gents. My name is Gregory. I'm with Log Cabin Republicans, the country's organization representing gay Republicans. MILO, I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank Christian for allowing me to be a part of this evening as well. And just wanted to thank you for the work that you've done elevating the profile of gay conservatives around the world. I am one of the people that actually had the pleasure of meeting Andrew Breitbart while he was still on this planet, and he also is someone who remains an inspiration to me. And before I forget, pronouns me, myself, and I, spirit animal, unicorn. All right. My question to you is, we talked about ways that you can actually have an influence on the culture as a conservative, and that is by eschewing the political culture and getting into media, movies, academia. But these are all institutions that are controlled by the left, and when you have professors in college that are getting expelled simply for saying, maybe we shouldn't overreact to Halloween, or people who are getting censored on social media just for expressing their views, how do we as conservatives circumvent this establishment and the control that the left has on these institutions if we are actually going to influence those institutions?
I think this is a great question. It's a little easier in the media and in entertainment because in the media you have so many upstart conservative outlets, and I think there's going to be a backlash after this election now with Trump making the media enemy number one. I think a lot of the mainstream news is either going to have to change at least slightly, or they're just going to continue to have their ratings fall. So that one might be a little easier. And then in entertainment, there's this do-it-yourself culture where you can get on Netflix and Amazon and you can find an audience. You can get on YouTube and you can find an audience. And the proof's in the pudding. There's a reason why Milo gets 10 times the audience that Hillary Clinton gets, because what Milo is saying is entertaining and original, and what she's saying is not entertaining and focus grouped. And that's something that's a big deal. So I think academia is the one that's the hardest. And Milo knows this a little better than I do, so I want to get his thoughts. But overall, first of all, you have to stop wasting money on liberal arts degrees. That's number one. The word has to get out. You have to stop doing it as the bottom line. How many of you are in a liberal arts major here?
No, this is a dangerous faggot day. They're all real subjects. Engineers, physicists.
And those of you, if you notice all the hands that were going up, and like, how many of you know who's gonna pay for the wall? But how many of you are in liberal arts? So tell me, of those of you who are in a liberal arts major, how many of you kind of regret it and wish you picked something that was a hard science or business or something numbers driven?
No, you see, they get pandered to in liberal arts degrees.
Yeah,
they think they're doing a good thing. They think it matters.
Right. So, but first of all, I'd like to thank you, by the way, because my wife is actually a medical student at George Washington, and I wanted to thank you for subsidizing her education, which only costs us $60,000 a year. Thanks to all of you guys throwing it away on your liberal arts and overpaying for those. So thank you. We'll be able to pay it off by our mid-50s, which is nice because anyway, you guys see where I'm going with this. But so first of all, you have to stop doing these majors, and I think there's going to be a huge backlash given the current job market of people who are not going to overpay for college. They're simply going to go into, no one's ever asked me for I'm proud of where I went to school, but no one's ever asked me to produce a degree, and I think I could have learned nearly as much. I had a particularly interesting, I actually went to be a rabble-rouser, but for the experience outside of the classroom. But people are going to get the joke that if you're not in a hard science, you're not in engineering, you're not in something mathematical, you're essentially throwing money away to waste time playing beer pong and trying to score. which is respectable. I mean, all of those, we've all been there. But
I think this is the
but it's
wrong
not
room for
worth
this.
$250,000. And people are going to figure that out. There's going to be a backlash. And you can learn more in 5 minutes of, let's say, a Prager University course than you can learn in a whole semester in a course you paid thousands of dollars for on campus. And the word will get out about that. And that's why YouTube, for example, has shut down Prager University or put it behind a censorship thing. And they're doing it because they see the impact of this do-it-yourself academia. And one of my keys to being informed is I walk around and I'm on an audiobook, I'm on a podcast, and I'm trying to enrich myself. And I listen to it on chipmunk speed. I do double time, so I get through more of it. And I'm giving myself a better education than I got in the classroom because I'm actually learning about practical things from practical people. And I can also re-listen to dangerous faggot MILO podcasts over and over, which are important. Always got to listen twice because they're so subtle. You get the nuances the second time. So I think the backlash is coming to academia, but I really want to hear MILO speak to the impact of things like this have. And by the way, they do not make it easy for us to have these events. They do everything they can to make them expensive, to make it so that there's a limited number of people who can get in. So that you sell the minimum number of tickets, and then of course a portion don't show up. And the universities, and by the way, I had on our radio show this morning a professor from the law school here who actually was a very brave man because he was speaking.
Audience.
Professor Bansaff, is he here? Professor, good to see you. And he's a First Amendment warrior, so he felt obliged to speak up. Not someone who's necessarily agrees with all of us politically, but believes in the First Amendment. And the thing that he and I did not agree on what time the event was going to be tonight. These are bait and switches that happen. Is that the event's at 7, now it's at 5:30, now it's at 5:30, now it's at 7, and we got to lose. You only have X amount of time in the room. And these are all tricks. They're dirty tricks, and they're happening all across the country wherever MILO's going because they see the impact of what it's like to have a message like his out there. And there's going to be a backlash because freedom tends to win, and the truth tends to win. And we're on the side of freedom with MILO's tour.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's difficult to beat somebody who's saying, all I want is the right to say what I like and be what I like and read what I want. It's very difficult to come up with ever more elaborate reasons as to why that's unacceptable. The social justice left is doing the best job it can, but it basically has failed. And the more the public hear about this stuff, the more they don't like it. In answer to your question, though, I'm going to give you some tough love. American conservatism, and particularly the minority group American conservatism, simply been ineffective. It hasn't done anything, hasn't accomplished anything. Hasn't spoken to young people because, in my experience, these conservative X, conservative Y, conservative Z groups have been more interested in going to the right cocktail parties and hanging out with fancy journalists and congressmen than they have going out and speaking to anywhere between 50 and 1,200 people 3 nights a week on a college tour, for instance. Why has it taken some fag from England, to come out here and to do this for conservatism in America? Is so stunning to me and so sad and so shocking to me that the conservative movement is so uselessly ineffective that it doesn't even occur to them that it would be a good idea to come up with some personalities. Like left has all these personalities. It's got sportsmen, it's got actors, it's got singers, it's got everything. Why don't we make some of those? It doesn't even occur to the conservative movement in this country. They're more interested in fundraisers and cocktail parties and endless, boring, think tank conference crap. And putting out whiny, pointless press releases. I mean, what have you guys been fucking doing? It's been a mess. Anyway, I'm happy to say I'm seeing the roots of the first shoots of that changing, and I hope that I've helped with that. But conservatives in this country are not going to get anywhere, and it's not going to get any better for you unless you start inventing new personalities, coming up with new original ways to provoke and inspire and make people laugh, educate and entertain them, and just do the work. Conservatives seem to think that writing an essay about doing something is the same as doing it. Well, It isn't. I could be sitting at home, drinking champagne, swathed in silk robes, having a perfectly nice life, you know, with a train of Nigerians at my bedroom door, morning, noon, and night if I wanted to, but I wouldn't be achieving anything. And I could be a very successful columnist, you know, at the same time, but I wouldn't be accomplishing anything. Not to set myself up as some kind of martyr, because I have a very nice life and I love doing this. But it's remarkable to me that so few other conservatives bother. And you need to, because you have, you know, the massed ranks of academia, the media, and you know, most of the political sphere. You have most of the great civil institutions of society against you. They're all lined up, ready to assassinate you. All you need is a bit of courage and a bit of flair, a bit of, as the drag queens say, charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. If you have that, you can get, yes, it spells cunt. If you, it's a drag queen joke, it's a very good drag. If you have a bit of that, you can achieve remarkable things on relatively few resources. But American conservatism has just been lost and losing for so long. Yet again, a European has to bail you all out. I think we can do one more, can't we? One more.
All right, we got time for one more.
Yeah, perfect.
Ben Shapiro on his radio show said that you were going to debate him, and then you decide not to because you were a coward. I want to know when you're going to debate him next.
Do I strike you as a coward?
I just want to know why you
think
didn't
Ben
debate him.
Shapiro scares me?
When are you going to debate him next?
What happened was I said sure, and then I'm a lot busier than he is, so didn't respond to an email for perhaps 7 or 8 days, and then he rushed to the airways to say, see, he didn't mean it, he's a coward, he's backed out. That absolutely didn't happen. As and when I can be bothered, I might write him an email again, but Ben Shapiro's job, I'm sorry because you're not going to like talking about this at all, but Ben Shapiro has 2 primary functions in media now that his career has imploded and I've taken his audience and nobody listens to him anymore. One is talking smack about his former employer in magazine profiles, and the other is fibbing about me on his radio show, neither of which is particularly interesting to anybody else.
Final comments, Milo?
We started this talking about the effect of, you know, what Trump might do to America, and giving some thoughts on the debates. And Alex has, I think, given you some cause for hope, because everybody's telling you that there isn't any. This is very much the position that many other presidents, some of whom have won landslides, have been in 2 weeks out. This is a position. I mean, was it Reagan? Reagan 2 weeks out you know, what was he? He was going to win 4 states or something crazy like that. He won a landslide. I would just encourage you to, if you are the evangelist types, which my audience tends to be, if you are loud people, the high energy people, if you are that way, focus for me on 2 things. One, you know, the rest of the world needs America to be strong and to be free. We need you to have the First Amendment, we need you to have the Second, and we need you to keep them, and we need them to work, because without you, what do we have left? China and Russia. And for that reason, the Supreme Court picks that are coming up in the next 5 years could not be more important. It just happens that a load of them are old at the same time. You can't afford Hillary Clinton to pick those people. And it's really as simple as that. And you will all have friends in this room who are taking high-minded, principled stances about Donald Trump, and claiming to be Republicans. Well, these people have no right to call themselves conservatives when they are signing away the future of this country, something that matters far more than any individual election, to somebody like Hillary Clinton, and given what she will do to the Supreme Court. They have no right to call themselves conservatives. They're a disgrace. And it's very terrifying to me as a European, coming to you as a warning from Europe, seeing what happens when you don't have free speech, when people cannot protect themselves, when you don't have a constitution, watching what happens to countries. Whether it is the unfairnesses visited upon men, whether it is Islamic immigration, when you don't have the things that America has, things go very, very badly wrong. Don't do it.
That's it.
All right. Thank you very much. Alex Marlow, Editor-in-Chief of Breitbart. The unenviable task of keeping me in line. Yes. Sorry to say we're going to be ushered out, so if you want to come and say hi, I'm not allowed to do it here, but I'm sure that somewhere around the building I will find you. All right. Thanks very much, guys. Cheers. Thank you. Thanks.